What's an argument you couldn't believe you had to have with an adult? The third one is actually mind-blowing. No joke. I went to pick up an item at the grocery store and it was labeled 1/3 of a pound, and an older lady tapped me on the shoulder and pointed to a competitive item next to it for the same price, but was labeled 1/4 of a pound. She said, "It's smarter to buy the larger package for the same price." Your wife would know that. She could absolutely not be convinced that 1/3 pound was larger than 1/4. Even explaining the math and showing her the weight in ounces on the package, she wasn't having it. I just laughed to myself and walked away. There's a story of some competitor of McDonald's putting out a burger called the Third Pounder that didn't sell well because people assumed the burger was smaller since 3 is smaller than 4. I don't know how true that is, though. Why 2 tablets of vitamin B6 do not equal 1 of B12. That's the funniest one here. I met someone who didn't believe in space. Not space travel, outer space. Just didn't think it was real. What did he think was up there? Some kind of dome and lights. Bro was not in the Truman Show. The firmament dome, and Earth is flat. Those people drive me to drink. That average people know who is and what a salute looks like. They insisted I only could possibly know that because I'm into history and there's no way they teach the Holocaust in school. When I was like 16, I worked in a trade as a labor position, so I was regularly working with grown men up to 60 years old. One time, I'm with a guy who's maybe 30 and another who is a bit older. And 30-year-old guy goes, "Auschwitz? Like Australia?" And it turned out he didn't know what the Holocaust was at all. He was pissed that a kid was laughing at him, so he said, "I bet you don't even know about Rochambeau." I didn't, so I looked it up and was like, "Some French soldier who helped the US in the Revolutionary War?" And he said, "No, you idiot. It's another name for rock, paper, scissors." And both of them started laughing at me, hysterically. I think that was the day I truly realized that being an adult didn't mean you were smart or had your shit together. Also the day I realized I didn't want to be a laborer at 30, 50 years old. Think for a second about just how dumb the average person is, and realize half of them are dumber than that. George Carlin. Reindeer are real. I am not trying to convince you that there are actually flying deer that pull Santa Claus's sleigh. One of my favorite stories was one year I was Christmas shopping with my younger brother, who was probably 18-ish at the time, at a sporting goods store. I was like, "Hey, they have live reindeer in back. They're pretty cool." He thought I was messing with him, so we went to go look. He just stared blankly at them for a few beats, then meekly asked, "Can they fly?" And, could they? Depends how much Red Bull they've consumed. I knew a lady who had 2 sons. We were visiting and I had to use the bathroom and I was on my girly time. Even though I wrapped it up, you can see the wrap in the trash can. She approached me and started screaming how I was a whore out of nowhere. Long story short, she was under the belief that a woman only had a period if she was a whore, because it was God's way of punishing a woman. I had to sit and explain to her that a period was a natural thing that women had, and it was not some divine retribution. Again, this was another woman, and she had 2 children, which means she had all of her body parts, and obviously they functioned correctly because she had children, which means she has had periods in her life. She wouldn't believe me. Just went completely wild screaming until I had to leave because she wouldn't stop screaming how I was a whore, and my period was proof of it. With a 40-year-old woman in South America, I had to explain where babies came from. She had like 17 kids and didn't know why God kept blessing her with more children. She just wanted it to stop as she had been pregnant pretty much her entire adult life. I'm not sure if her husband knew or not. This is legitimately an education issue, not a stupidity issue. That's really sad. This is why sex education must be taught. Abstinence-only education is not okay. We live in Canada, and we were on a road trip. We stopped to take a piss, and a tumbleweed comes rolling across the way. He tells me that, "Did you know tumbleweeds come from Texas?" At first, I thought I was a joke, but the guy was dead serious. These things just tumble across 100,000 of kilometers across the mountains and countless fences, river, and lakes. It was the dumbest conversation I ever had. And he's one of those guys that always thinks he's right, so me and all my buddies call him Texas Tumbleweed Bryce, still do to this day. They are actually native to Russia. Yes, but he was under the impression that they only came from Texas, and when they broke off, they traveled all the way up to Canada and kept going north. They are trying to get back to Russia. When I was a kid, my neighbor had set cage traps for a possum that was tearing up his lawn at night, searching for bugs apparently. One day I came home from school and noticed a cat in the trap. Obviously someone's pet as it was wearing a collar. I walk over into his yard to free it, and the guy comes out and goes berserk as I was trying to let it out. I explained it was a house cat, which he could obviously see but insisted to keep it trapped. I told him to piss off or whatever and let the cat out. He continues to yell at me as I walked away and ignored him. F that guy. 30 years later, and it still pisses me off. I got an opossum doing the same thing in my yard at night too. He's pretty chill. I just feed him mealworms and apples so he chills out on the digging. I'm pretty sure he's half domesticated at this point. My bulldogs are cool with him also. Someone who was an elected official at the time was completely unaware of the fact that the seasons are at opposite times of year between the northern and southern hemispheres. Convinced that I was f***ing with her when I tried to explain that Christmas is observed in the summertime in Australia, she took to Google, confirmed the date for XMAs being 25th of December, and decided that I was indeed full of shit. That's a shocker? They are the dumbest ones. There was an elected official who thought Guam would tip if too many people stood on one side. That Africa is not a country in and of itself. It's made up of many countries. A paraprofessional in my classroom started to argue with me as I was teaching my students about continents. She was trying to say that Africa is a country, and I said, no, it is made up of many countries. I had all the kids pull out their laptops and Google the countries of Africa. Africa has the most countries of any continent. That bacon wasn't a vegetable. Had ordered a bacon cheeseburger at a fast food restaurant and asked for no veggies. When I got the burger, there was no bacon. I went to the cashier to ask for the bacon, and she just smiled and said, "You asked for no veggies." Thinking this must be a joke, I asked her, "Since when was bacon considered a vegetable?" With a completely straight face, she replied, "It's always been a vegetable. My boyfriend and I are vegetarians, and we eat bacon all the time." Her boyfriend is a goddamn genius. My cousin was bagging his own groceries at Walmart. Those bags are thin and weak as hell, so he was double bagging. The checkout monitor lady came up and said that he isn't allowed to double bag. It's too wasteful. He informed her that their bags were crap and that he didn't want his groceries to fall out. Her solution was to take half of the groceries in that bag and put them in another bag. He explained multiple times that this would be using the same amount of bags, but she couldn't understand how that was the same thing. After a while, he just said F it and went about bagging his groceries. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and leave a comment below. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and click the bell icon so you never miss an upload.